Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine, the Shark, and Strkyer. Today is our 145th episode, and we're talking about the 2006 movie Dragon Hill 2 El Cubo Mágico, or Dragon Hill 2 The Magic Cube, for those of you who don't know Spanish. So, let's get things started.
This program brought to you by the Wisconsin Department of Motor Vehicles. No, we're not actually sponsored. No, it's not actually true. I just felt like tying that in because reasons.
Dragon Hill was a successful movie in Spain in terms of both box office and home video rentals, and it did well enough to get a sequel. However, this sequel shares something in common with a lot of the Disney direct-to-video sequels at the time. It started off as a pilot for a TV series based on Dragon Hill, but it was not picked up. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I thought you were going to say it's shared a lot of things with the other Disney direct-to-VHS sequels. It's bad.
True.
Hey, now, don't go dissing Bambi too. Leave my precious boy alone.
It's interesting in that it is kind of like that shared pilot thing, because one of the co-funders of this movie, as Angron said, is in the credit, because it turns out that none other than Disney Channel helped finance this because they were helping to make it a series. Unfortunately, the series never aired, so I went direct to video, but it still did decent enough, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And as a whole, this sequel is definitely not as good as the original. I like it more than most, but even I will admit that it is not as good as the first Dragon Hill, not by a long shot, and we'll get to why right now. Because the movie starts with the opening credits, which at first plays over carvings of dragons, then cuts to outer space. And one thing that's funny, you can tell that they were trying to aim for maybe a little bit more of an international audience, because for some reason, the credits here are in English, and they weren't in the first Dragon Hill, which is very interesting. We then see the titular cube flying through space before approaching an alien planet, and I will say this, the cube is done in pretty noticeable CGI, but for the time period and for the budget they had, this doesn't look bad. I've seen a lot worse CGI from a lot better studios.
This, honest to God, feels like a heavy metal reference because it's reminiscent of the green orb from both Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2000 careening towards Earth or another distant planet. And all that made me think of is whose poor, unfortunate, disguised father is going to get evaporated by this thing.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Also, how much sex is going to be in this? Answer, none.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. The cube then lands on an alien planet, which then causes the planet to implode in on itself before the cube flies back into space. And like I say, that is certainly an opening for this animated movie. A sequel to Dragon Hill would start off relatively tame. Here we have like a whole planet being destroyed in the first 30 seconds, so definitely a harbinger for things to come. Oh, go ahead, Chuck.
This is the moment it clicked for me. The Magic Cube is the Allspark, and the planet that just exploded is Cybertron. The dragons better watch out because Optimus Prime and Megatron are coming to their planet now.
Well, it'd be better than the Transformers movies, let's put it that way, the Michael Bay ones. Go ahead, Angron.
I'm half tempted to agree, but A, it's not metallic. B, that green looks way too organic to be anything mechanical or something like that. And C, again, heavy metal minus the sex.
We then cut back to Earth, where we see a stormy sea, and of course, here we get the narration. It is a miserable and cold day. This reminds me of the time Elfie and Kevin thought they killed the health inspector. Wait, sorry, wrong show. Nope, it turns out to actually cut to the small island from the first film, where Septimus the Wizard is complaining about the wind and the rain as he and Tristan hide in the treasure chest. For those of you who haven't seen our episode on the first movie, Septimus was the evil wizard villain of the first movie, and Tristan is his imp assistant. What happened was they attempted to take over Dragon Hill. They were sent to this private island by Maud, one of the humans that lives in Dragon Hill. And it is interesting how this movie follows up directly from the first one, which is something not a lot of animated sequels did, at least at the time.
Also, on the topic of Tristan being an imp compared to Septic Tank, no, I haven't forgotten about that nickname. Thank you very much. He's honestly a little the same height as Septic Tank, so calling him an imp would be kind of inaccurate. I'd say like maybe mid-tier gargoyle or maybe like demon of sorts, but yeah, I don't think imp works too much.
Septimus demands that Tristan go out to see if it's still raining, but Tristan, as usual, says nothing. Septimus angrily yells that, "Do I have to do everything myself?" and leaves the chest, seeing that the rain is slowing down. He demands that Tristan build him a fire as he is cold and wants to warm up. However, a bolt of lightning then hits Septimus, causing him to turn to ash as he tells Tristan, "Don't you dare laugh at me." And I will say this, I am going off the original Spanish language version of the movie, so any difference between dialogue compared to the English language version will be brought up in a little while.
Yeah. Also, that lightning strike was courtesy of Zubair, who decided to add a little bit of comedic flair to their unfortunate situation.
Either that or God confused him with Wario.
True, because as we know, Wario is cursed to die for the rest of his life.
Yes.
We then come back to the cave from the first film as Ethelbert, the Dragon Guardian, recaps the first movie with clips of it showing and it also being shown with carvings. We then see a dragon carving a scene of Kevin, the main human boy from the original film, and Elfie sitting together in the stone and says, "I don't mean to brag, but this is going great." And one thing I do like about this dragon design, he has a pair of Eastern dragon whiskers that looks like a handlebar mustache, which is a really cute touch there. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Difference between the first movie Ethelbert and this Ethelbert, the Ethelbert in this movie sounds a little higher compared to that one, so sadly, I won't get to make too many Optimus Prime jokes with him.
We then come back to Dragon Hill itself as we see Maud make an antenna out of various scraps of metal, including a spatula and a frying pan. She then moves it and asks Ken if he's getting any reception. Ken, who was Elfie's father from the first film, is zoned out on the couch as the makeshift TV at first shows static and then shows a series of geometric shapes. Maud asks Ken how the reception is, but he is just zoned out on the couch, hypnotized by the shapes on the television. And this is definitely a gag that does come into play later, and it's a pretty funny one. Oh, go ahead, Stryker.
I can't help but feel like he may have had one too many hits earlier.
Also, let's just hope this whole television tactic doesn't end with Ken attacking trick-or-treaters by seeing them as monsters during the night. Dragon Hill is not your salad bar!
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just imagine when Dragon Hill finally gets around to inventing the streaming service. Those are going to be some interesting nights in each and every cave.
The television turning you into a petrified zombie. Man, this movie is great with subtlety.
Well, that's definitely not its strong suit, as we'll talk about some of its more interesting lessons later. Maud then says, "With this kind of help, we'll never get anywhere," then goes to check. We then see things from Ken's point of view as Gala, his wife, fades into view, and if you have not listened to our video on the first Dragon Hill, Gala is the wife of Ken. She has an extremely bottom-heavy design, which we are very glad to see, and she has a great voice, at least in the original Spanish version, which makes the fact they replace it for Dragon Hill 3 all the sadder. Gala is one of those characters who you could definitely tell that they had fun designing her just with her body shape, because all the dragons kind of have that reluctant dragon vibe to them, but with her, they took it up to 11. Gala asks if Ken is alright as Maud arrives, asking what is going on before noticing Ken's face. Maud then asks, why does he have that stupid expression on, as Gala sarcastically asks, "You tell me," before then saying, maybe it's because he's been watching that idiot box for hours on end. Maud then says that he always has that look of cluelessness on his face. I will say this, I like how Gala instantly steps up to defend her husband because she starts yelling at Maud saying, "Are you saying my husband is stupid?" and starts pushing back at her before Maud tries to explain what's happening with the TV. Gala cuts her off, saying that the gadget is to blame and asks why she is still trying to work with it because it's not serving any purpose. Maud then tries telling her that when she can get a proper broadcast, television can be a good thing. Gala then goes over to her husband and asks if he's okay as he answers, "Yes, master. At least he is not as creepy as Renfeld from Dracula. I don't want to see his version of Dwight Fry's laugh." Gala then gets an idea and gives Ken her broom and tells him to clean up the place as well as perform other chores. As he starts doing so, Gala looks at Maud and tells her she might be right. That machine is good for something. Which actually got a good laugh out. It's a typical sitcom joke, but I don't know, something about the execution of it, at least with the original language Spanish version, definitely works. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, I will say, compared to the original Dragon Hill, Maud has definitely a bit more time here, and the time that's used for her is definitely well spent. We have her right here, already off the bat, being very kind, yes, and very much having some of her personality from the first film shining through here. But we also got little moments like this. She has her little sly moments that are well meant, admittedly. Let's be honest, even Kazooie would cock an eyebrow at that and nod her head, be like,
So a couple things real quick. First, in the English dub, they fixed the issue from the first movie. She no longer sounds like she's being voiced by the woman who's trying to do the kid voice rather than the adult voice. So kudos to them for that. And second, so we see why Gala was upset with Maud making fun of Ken. That's her job.
Adding to the comment Angron said a few minutes ago, yeah, I'm pretty sure with this Ludmillanon, she already has more screen time here than in the original film.
For all this movie does wrong, they actually do a lot more with Gala, which is kind of weird because Dragon Hill's one of those franchises that the longer it goes on, the more they give Gala screen time, which is not a good thing when we get to Dragon Hill 3, but we'll talk about that disaster another time. We then cut back to the island as Septimus is trying to get coconuts come out of a nearby palm tree, saying how, I know they're edible, and telling Tristan to wait and see. He then shakes the tree, but nothing happens. Septimus then tries to kick it, only for the coconut to fall out and smack him on the head, and of course, we know who's watching this. Ha ha ha! That wizard got hit on the head with a coconut! Go ahead, Math.
The tree shoots in spurts, and if it hits, it's gonna hurt.
Yep.
Perfect. Septimus then asks Tristan if he wants to try, as Tristan does so. The coconut merely pounces off his head and smacks Septimus again. Septimus then suggests that they try fishing instead, noting that fish is healthier anyway. We then cut to the two of them fishing, as Septimus says that the art of fishing is like science, before then saying the science of fishing is like art, before going off on a tangent about how fishing is art and art is science, and if an artist wants to fish a scientist, and continues to ramble on like this for a while, which actually reminded me a lot of Laurel and Hardy, because Stan Laurel would often do the same thing, where he would get sidetracked on one topic and taken into various directions. So I think that might have been a little intentional reference there, and if it is, that is very welcome, because we need more Laurel and Hardy love in our lives.
as Harold from Billy and Mandy would say to this situation, "Me not speak your language."
Tristan then picks up a seashell and continues to listen into it in order to ignore Septimus, as the wizard is upset about not catching any fish, saying that he's been doing it for hours and there's been no fish. He then asks what Tristan is doing, seeing his servant listening to the seashell. He then says, "Are you trying to help me? No, you're just sitting there listening to a stupid shell." And Squidward knows the feeling at Camp SpongeBob.
Yep.
Septimus then gives Tristan the fishing rod and says that he will listen to the shell. We then cut to them doing that as Septimus tells Tristan that he is hearing the most beautiful melodies and that it is like the ocean whispering to him. Tristan eats a fly while Septimus continues to babble about the seashell. He then says he can hear the ocean before the seashell squirts him with water and he spits it out, screaming how much he hates the sea. We then get a checkerboard scene transition, which is very weird because this movie likes to do that. It uses very Windows Movie Maker-esque transitions. It feels very weird.
So it was at this point I started to notice something. They seem to be reusing the same 10 frames or shots of characters, particularly zooming in on their face. Not in the way the previous movie did, because they actually changed that up every time they did that. No, it's like the same talking gif of them zoomed in on the face. They do this repeatedly, so between that and the really cheap looking transitions, I think that they had no budget for this, like, at all.
They cut a lot of corners, especially with the musical numbers, and yes, there are musical numbers, and don't worry, we have a lot to talk about with those ones. Tristan eventually gets a bite, with Septimus telling him to pull it up as, "It's only a weak little fish." Tristan, of course, ends up pulling up a gigantic fish, one that is larger than Septimus and ends up squishing him. The wizard then begins to scream how much he hates fish as well, before we then cut back to Dragon Hill as we see Elfie and Kevin work on the plane from the first film, trying to repair it to its original form after the climax of that movie. I do like that it has a lot of continuity between the movies, because Dragon Hill 2 to Dragon Hill 3 notably does not.
Going back to the fish thing, when Tristan pulls up that large fish, I'm thankful that they didn't end up fishing up Pearl, because that would have been quite life-ending, let's put it.
That would have been a lot more interesting too. Anyway, go ahead, Shark.
It's at this moment when I saw Kevin again that I realized something. Oh, right. Kevin never returned home. Which is kind of unusual for this kind of movies because it usually has like the real world character returning home after his magical journey. Not here, he's stuck in the dragon world now.
Being in Dragon Hill is a lot better than what he was at in the human world, because he was just a servant in the kitchen there, so at least in Dragon Hill he can do whatever he wants, so wouldn't you want to live there?
Who wouldn't?
Exactly. Go ahead, Math.
Oh no, I'm stuck in a land full of dragons. Whatever will I do?
Because Kevin actually doesn't really complain about going home. He still wants to be a knight, like that hasn't changed, but he does not mind being in Dragon Hill, especially since he's got people like Elfie helping him out there, and he's honestly a lot more respected better than he was in the human world.
Elfie then says they have all the pieces and they'll bring it to Maud's workshop, then says it'll be as good as new. Kevin says that he's excited to have more adventures in the air, as Elfie playfully says that Kevin is as boastful as ever. Kevin gets upset at this, saying that you can't keep underestimating me, before falling in the barrel he is sitting in and jumping on as it rolls down a hill. Elfie then says, "Here we go," as the barrel rolls off a cliff, with Elfie showing up to see it fall. Kevin, meanwhile, falls out of the barrel and runs in it midair before we cut to a face of his being blown back by the wind. And this is weird because this part with Kevin's face being blown back by the wind it's really detailed in with this animation, the way it looks. It looks so strange. They put the most amount of effort in this. It's almost like DDD coming at you when the shots of Escargoon and DDD talking had the most effort put in it. Kevin, meanwhile, then falls off the barrel and lands in the stomach of the sleeping pterodactyl creature from the first movie, then lands on a tree, which launches him back into the pterodactyl's nest. Kevin, meanwhile, nervously grins at the beast as it is then hit in the head with the barrel, hiding Kevin inside of it. The pterodactyl then lifts up the barrel to see nothing as Kevin is hiding in it, popping out when the beast isn't looking at him. The pterodactyl then notices Kevin but is hit in the head with a rock. It turns out to be Elfie hovering over him as he demands for the pterodactyl to let go of Kevin. The pterodactyl then says that trying to take a nap has given me a headache. Oh, go ahead, Math.
The scene with him falling with the barrel was incredibly well animated, so I think that may have been like the test footage that they were using for the initial pitch of the movie, because right after that, and this is why it's so jarring, the barrel looks so terrible when they have the characters interact with it. It looks like they just put a barrel.gif 3D model on top of 2D characters. There is no integration, there is no meshing, there is no nothing. It looks so bad.
As we'll see later on with the third film, this studio was really not ready to handle CGI, but again, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The barrel then flies off with Elfie flying after it, and one thing I will say, I do love the sound effects in this movie because as Elfie flies, you actually hear propeller noises, and after Elfie lands on the barrel but falls off it as it rolls away, he tries to block it with his body, and I do like this joke. Seconds before he realizes it's going to happen, he has a look in his face like this was a bad idea before he's hit by the barrel, and getting back to the sound effect, they play a bowling ball sound effect as it hits him, and I'm sorry, call that cheap, but that actually got a good snicker out of me.
Kevin, are you right? Finland!
Huh. So from his first movie, he might have been from Finland. The barrel continues to roll away before getting caught in some branches and being launched back, hitting Elfie as they both soar through the sky. We then cut to Vivian and some other dragons playing before they see Elfie and Kevin fly by. Vivian says, "I'm not sure, but that probably has something to do with my stupid brother."
So at this point, it came to my attention that this cannot be a actual translation. This has to be like a fan dub thing. There's no way that it's official because they say some things in this that are a bit jarring. She doesn't say "my stupid brother." She says something that I cannot say for reasons that this will get taken down. There is no way on earth Disney would ever allow that. Period. So there's no way this is official.
That actually shocked me because I just skimmed through the English dub and there are some other differences like that, but that's the most notable one, and that really just made my jaw drop that they actually said that. Makes me wonder if that English dub that we watched was a fan dub. There's a lot of inconsistencies. Definitely would not fly in an animated film, especially for...
Yeah, just because South Park can get away with that kind of terminology doesn't mean stuff like Dragon Hill can get away with it.
Kind of like what happened with the subtitles of Inframan, because if you go back to that episode, that also did very interesting things with the subtitles. We then cut to Ethelbert's lair as he is meditating before Elfie and Kevin crash land near him. He then says, "Another test with a cosmic ray." The cosmic ray is the name of the plane, by the way. As Elfie says, something like that. Ethelbert asks if they are alright, as Elfie says they are, thanks to Kevin's hard head. Elfie then asks what is Ethelbert doing, as the dragon says that he is meditating to relax. Elfie then jokes he's doing it because Maud beat him at chess again, but Ethelbert tells him not to mock him. Elfie then asks Ethelbert why he doesn't use his magic to beat Maud, as Ethelbert replies, because Maud plays against me, not my magic. Ethelbert then adds that it wouldn't be fair if he used it, as Kevin says how a knight must always respect rules. When Elfie asks why, as it's only just a game, Kevin says that it doesn't matter, as a knight is a noble and honest person and must follow the rules, no matter how trivial. When Ethelbert asks how does Kevin know about this, Kevin said that there were so many of them in the castle he lived in. Elfie then asks if Kevin is a knight, as Kevin sheepishly admits that he worked in the kitchen, but was going to be a knight one day and that he watched him intently. And here we go, we get the first of 3 musical numbers, which are going to be very interesting because, like Dragon Hill themselves, they kind of had a very sliding scale of quality.
One thing to get out of the way with these songs, on their own and in the context of the movie, they're all right. This first one is just basically describing that Kevin is trying to ultimately bolster himself up. The others, admittedly, are also pretty fitting for the context that they're put in. Can't exactly forgive them for existing is the visuals. This is the most flash animation of flash animation shit that I have possibly seen in an animated film. Like, even more so than Secret of Kells. Great movie. Go see it. Uses flash animation. I can forgive that. This, I cannot. It just looks... You want the biggest example of recycled animation and just overall not great visuals and the sign that this was definitely a direct-to-DVD movie. Look right here to the song. You will either be disappointed.
This is what Matt said earlier of, this is when you can kind of tell they didn't have that much of a budget, because not only does the animation look cheaper, but they recycle a lot of animation in this musical number. Since this was supposed to be more or less a pilot, could this be like the animation they had planned for the opening of the show?
It very much makes me wonder that, because again, it feels so much more cartoonish than it was, because it was very chibi inspired. It also reminds me a bit of UPA.
So I'm going to be the odd man out here. I didn't mind the chibi look itself. I'm going to emphasize look, because seeing it in motion is terrible. I appreciate that they tried to do something different visually in the movie. I'm never going to fault anybody for that. I'm going to fault them for the execution, not the attempt. But also, I wanted to point out 2 things with this song and these songs in general. One, they are padded out to a point of just annoyance. They are each about 5 minutes long in a 70-minute movie. You can tell this was for runtime. And 2, the English dub, they do the direct translation thing again, where it's, I assume, roughly just word for word, and there is no flow with it. There is no attempt to fix how words are meshed up or rhyming scheme or anything like that. It's just direct, and it sounds terrible. I listen to the Spanish versions too. They actually sound kind of nice and entertaining. The English ones are insufferable.
Oh, don't worry. That's not the worst of the English ones. The next song after absolutely is.
Ugh.
The musical number 2, the type of music is weird because it's almost like Euro dance, and it is so unfitting for what they're trying to do. I guess it did because, we gotta be hip with the kids. At least it wasn't reggaeton, let's put it that way. We see in the montage that Kevin is trained to be a knight, using a makeshift suit of armor against a training dummy on a wooden horse. Elfie helps push him down a cliff as the horse trips over a rock, causing Kevin to land near the dummy. We then see Kevin lifting weights, which are just 2 balloons. They lift him into the sky. And as we said, the other thing that's weird is this is a lot more cartoony than the actual events of the movie, because the events of the movie actually have some kind of internal logic in that. But these chibi segments, they just go all out with whatever they want. And it is so weird.
Yeah.
As we see that Kevin needs anchor arms, the lyrics are all about Kevin dreaming how he'll be a great knight and how he will prove himself. And as I said, the fact that it is a Eurodance song about this makes it even stranger. We then cut to Kevin preparing to shoot an apple off of Elfie's head, but Elfie is nervous and tells him to stop. And this is the part that actually made me smile the most, because it is a cute joke. We then cut to Elfie wearing a gigantic hat with the apple on it. That actually got a good chuckle out of me. It was like, okay, that's a cute little thing.
Yeah. I know Elfie is willing to help out his friend, but near suicide on that sort of thing.
Kevin shoots the arrow, which misses and bounces off. It hits a bear, which begins to chase them. It does the cartoonish wheel of feet gag, as the pair then hide in the bushes, only for them to be on top of the bear, which growls. And as mentioned earlier, we then get some reused animation from previously on the segment as it's added to the beat of the song. And like you guys said, this just feels so lazy. Like, I get cutting corners and all, but you can either do two things. Either one, you can cut the song down to fit the animation, or number two, you can add more animation to it. Trying to have it half-assed by this doesn't work.
Yep. I hope you like the shot of Elfie shrugging with a nervous smile because it pops up like 8 times through the whole thing.
I'm going to go with option 3 for this song. Don't. Just don't.
I will say this, the song on its own is nice. It's definitely not the worst of the songs. Again, that honor goes to the song that comes right after this. Yeah, like I said, if it did something unique, like make the music videos stylistically different, something like from Class of 3000 as shooting it, where they do different styled music numbers that look impressive despite the budget. Yeah, they don't. And that's, again, why I can't really forgive these musical portions for really existing. Again, songs aren't bad, save for one. The visuals just do not help.
We then cut to Kevin in a catapult as he lands inside of a chimney and is launched in the air. We then cut to Kevin and his horse with a rocket attached to it as Elfie sets the rocket on fire, causing smoke to appear on his face. Kevin is then launched off but goes upwards before hitting the ground, and after, again, more reused animation, we then see Kevin finally manage to hit the shield of the knight before it swims around and hits him with his mace, knocking him down. After several other failed attempts, which is again reused animation, Kevin finally manages to defeat the dummy by putting a boxing glove on the end of his lance. He, Elfie, and the dummy then all dance before the three of them strike a triumphant pose. And you might think, oh, this is going to come to play later on in the movie. It never comes up in the movie. The fact that Kevin learned how to ride a horse and lance does not come to play in any stretch of the imagination. Filler for the sake of filler. And again, if it's a television show, maybe you would have a scene like that later on in the episode. But the fact that it's not, it just feels so out of place. And this is not the most out of place song, I will say that. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, get used to seeing a bunch of weird and wacky visuals in low quality flash animation. They never come into play again, which for all intents and purposes is a good thing. If they had a lanky, sprawly knight dummy walking around alongside other weird oddities that happen in the music videos, this would be a very interesting movie to say the least.
With regards to all of them dancing during that one part of the song, look, I know that Shrek popularized the idea of the dance party musical. That's supposed to be at the end of the movie, not in the first third.
After a checkerboard wipe, we then cut to Maud driving on a cart and holding traffic signs, saying that she'll place them around the area in order to teach them to avoid accidents. And I think it is an intentional character trait that Maud tries to invent things like television and traffic signs that are of zero use to the dragons. I think that is an intentional joke, and if it is, that is a really clever one. We then cut to a graphic arts studio where Newton, the dragon from the first movie, has the latest edition of a newspaper made of stone tablets, as he says it is about Elfie and Kevin and how they beat Septimus. His editor says that it sounds good, but wonder if it's good for a scientific journal. Newton then says that science, above all else, is adventure, then adds that people love gossip. His editor says that it sounds more like an animated film, wah, wah, wah. As we then cut to Maud driving in her cart. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Or, as Dr. Zeno would put it from Dr. Stone, science is elegant.
Oh, by the way, if you think this thing of Maud setting signs is something like a little gag like the television, oh, it's just her recurring joke of trying to introduce human stuff to the dragon world, it's not. It's an actual subplot in this movie.
Yeah. Not only is it a subplot, it is a reoccurring subplot. So if you like learning about traffic signs, don't worry, folks. We got a lot more where that came from.
I am not exaggerating when I say that after that wonderful music number we were all subjected to, the plot of this movie, if you can say it has a plot, is kidnapped for 3 straight minutes to talk to us about traffic signs. How much were they paid by the government for this PSA?
I have no idea. It is so out of place. Like, there are other Spanish animated movies that didn't do that. The first Dragon Hill movie didn't do that. Like, the Tadeo Jones movies don't do that. Why would you think to do this? If it was a TV show and it had an episode dedicated to it, at least that's fine, because in an episode you can skip it. But in terms of a narrative film like a movie, it is so out of place. It just completely sucks all of the energy that this movie had. It just completely drains it.
I kind of get what you mean, but at the same time, how they present it doesn't exactly feel like a government stunt. It just feels like something they shot at a dartboard and were like, oh, this could be interesting for Maud to do. Like, we have a world-class scientist who was able to stop septic tank by imagining a large supercomputer to zap him to abandoned island, likely near Bikini Bottom. And now they just have her teaching traffic safety to people who can fly and don't really need automobiles all that much. Flying vehicles, maybe. Automobiles, though, yeah, that's a stretch, even for this movie. Like, I get wanting to try and progress Dragon Hill a bit more, but that's a pretty far-fetched way of going about that. And for this film, it could be worse, but yeah, I definitely think it's a bizarre thing to have happen in a series like this.
As Maud swerves out of the way from Newton because he's crossing the road without looking, she crashes into a rock as Newton asks if she is alright. Maud, from within the wreckage, asks if he crossed the street without looking. Newton admits that he did, but says this is because he was delivering the latest edition of the paper, as Maud asks what it is about. He says that it is about Elfie and Kevin, as she asks, don't you edit a scientific magazine? He says that he does, and Maud asks if he would dedicate an issue to public safety. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
This is another instance where you can see they're trying to save money on an animation book, because since Maud is under all their signs, whenever she talks, we're just seeing a static shot of this pile of signs, and they held this shot for quite a while. So yeah, clearly trying to save animation here, guys.
She then yells about public safety, such as him crossing the streets with his eyes closed and respecting traffic signs. Newton asks what that is, as Maud is amazed that he doesn't know, saying everybody should know what it is. Elfie, meanwhile, is flying with Kevin as they see Maud and Newton arguing, going to see what's happening. Maud, frustrated, asks if now Newton knows what the traffic sign is. As he says no, Maud is upset as Elfie arrives to tell her that the plane is ready. She asks them what the traffic sign is, as they say no. And we then cut to the three of them sitting down in front of various traffic signs, which I will point out are specifically European traffic signs. As she asks them what a no entry sign says, the three of them guess differently, with Kevin saying take shelter. And believe it or not, Elfie actually gets it kind of right. He says do not enter, and you think that she'd leave them alone, but no. Maud says that they are not leaving until they know each and every sign, which really makes me wonder if Ethelbert made a good decision letting her in Dragon Hill if she's going to be this fanatical about it.
I mean, granted, she did introduce into chess, TV, and a few other scientific discoveries, so having her there isn't a complete bane, the idea of Dragon Hill. But moments like this are definitely like him to give him more pause than they are for him to be all in on that sort of thing.
We then come back to Septimus and Tristan, as Septimus is busy searching through the treasure chest. He then pulls out a genie lamp, lamenting why someone would put such a trinket in the treasure chest full of riches. He then says that it's nothing but an oil lamp covered in dust, and shows Tristan what he will do with it, which turns out to be kicking it into the ocean, which, if it's the Will Smith genie, that is the right decision. It turns out that smokes and sparkles appear on the water, as Septimus angrily wonders what's happening now. A genie then comes out of the lamp, and jokes that he likes the sea but prefers going to the mountains, then berates Septimus for throwing the magic lamp in the water, wondering, have you never heard the stories? I do like this. This is an understated moment that actually got a good laugh out of me. Septimus's little no in a quiet tone. It's maybe some way that it's delivered in the original Spanish version, but it really is a funny moment. It's so simple, and yet it does work. Go ahead, Angron.
There's this one scene from The Amazing World of Gumball where Gumball's trying to learn how to use magic from Hector's mom. One of the things he does is wash off a lamp. There's a genie inside it gasping for air. Gumball's just like pushing him down, trying to rub off the little smudge on the lamp, and each time the genie's like, and he just pushed down, and it's what it reminds me of.
Nice. Math, you were saying?
So what I found weird, and this may be a dub thing, so you'll have to tell me if this was in the Spanish version or not. They specifically reference Aladdin, not Arabian Nights, specifically Aladdin. And all I can think is, wow, yeah, that's a movie that came out 10 years ago that you're referencing that I would rather be watching than this. Thank you.
In the Spanish version, they specifically say Aladdin and his magic lamp. So that way you couldn't further they're talking about the original fable. But yeah, if they just say Aladdin straight up in the other version, that is definitely trying to tie into the Disney movie. The genie then says that he was the star of the story, but Aladdin was the one who married the princess, and a pretty cute joke. The genie then says that he usually will give Septimus 3 wishes, but since Septimus tried to drown him, he will only give the wizard 1. Septimus pouts about getting only 1 wish, then wishes to leave the island. The genie then stops and says that Septimus didn't say where he wanted to go. Septimus then says that he'll tell him, but the genie laughs and says that he can't. Once you word a wish, it is final. And man, that is just such a jerk move from him. It actually got a chuckle out of me.
I mean, to be fair, even if he was granted 3 wishes, he probably would have wasted them with something like wishing he knew it earlier.
I will say this is a nice little bit of continuity between the two movies in that Septimus gives a very vague idea of something. Like the original reason that he's on this island in the first place is all he said to Maud was, I want to go somewhere with a nice beach. Ends up on a deserted island. So all he says here is, I want off this island. Yeah, well, you didn't tell me where, so fuck you.
Septimus is really upset about this as the genie asks what he can do to help him. He then mutters how he was going to give it to his niece, but instead gives Septimus the magic cube, which, considering what we learned about the magic cube later, this genie is the real villain of the movie because this magic cube is a harbinger of doom, and he was just casually going to give it as a birthday present.
Then again, though, how this ultimate doom goes down makes it feel even less grandiose than Final Entity from Heavy Metal 2000.
It was at this point in the movie where I noticed something. We are like in the halfway point, or heck, we might be even beyond that, and the cube is just reappearing, Tristan is still in the Aslan, and whatever story is supposed to be going on isn't really going on.
We have given up any semblance of a story at this point. The story really doesn't kick in until, God, maybe the 50-minute mark, which for a movie that's 70 minutes long is pathetic. We then come back to Maud and Ethelbert as she manages to beat him in chess once again, joking how he should stick to Parcheesi. Ethelbert says that he's going to beat her one day as she jokes that, you can wait that long, you live for hundreds of years and I don't have that privilege. Ethelbert then asks if he can't beat her if she won't tell him where she put Septimus, and she says no. The dragon calls Maud cruel as the curiosity is killing him. Maud then retorts that a deal is a deal, then asks him about traffic signs. Ethelbert, showing that he is the wisest of all the dragons, says that dragons don't need to know about that, as she says that everybody does, and that she wants to see him at her class this afternoon.
I kind of like that they're still keeping the dynamic between Maud and Ethelbert. Like, Ethelbert's this old, grizzled, kind person who has lived thousands of years and is ultimately just this gruff yet kind of out-of-touch guy, while Maud is this quick-witted, straight-to-the-point, almost Senku intelligence human who ultimately both clashes and melds well with Ethelbert's personalities, making a pretty comical dynamic between the two, and I like that they keep that, even if here they're kind of pushing the whole traffic thing a little too much.
This scene feels so weird and out of place. It takes place in the middle of the villain's just antics in general, like smack dab in the middle of it. No flow, no rhyme, no reason to it. It just appears and then disappears. It feels like it's just, we interrupt your regularly scheduled villain abuse to remind you, traffic safety is important. Now back to villain torture.
This movie has just such a weird, nonsensical flow to it that the only reason it makes sense of it was like a pilot for a show, because otherwise, why would they think this is good? But regardless, as Matt just mentioned, we then come back to the island as the genie tells Septimus that the cube will take him anywhere he wants to go, if he manages to learn how to use it. Septimus asks for a manual, but the genie admits that he lost it. Of course, Mario could have helped him with the enclosed instruction book.
Yep. Plot twist, the magic cube is just a GameCube.
That would have been way better for everybody if it turned out to be the GameCube. Septimus then yells at the genie that he can't do that and that the genie should help him. The genie then says that he doesn't have the time and that Septimus tried to drown him, so he won't help. He then asks Septimus to figure it out for himself as he's an adult, then throws the cube at him and leaves. Septimus rages at him, calling him a fraud and a cheat as we zoom into the cube with dramatic music playing, and here we get probably the keystone as to why this is a pilot, because we get a straight-on fade to black while dramatic music plays and we zoom into the cube. And this feels so much like it was going to be the end of the episode.
Yep, Septimus is right on the genie being a fraud. I mean, Shantae, the half genie, she was just turning into a mermaid and not drown.
True. Would have been way better if she was there too. After that fade to black, we then cut back to Dragon Hill as the pterodactyl arrives, saying he's bored and says, "Us intellectuals always have to stay alert," before he notices something. Elfie and Kevin walk by with traffic signs as Kevin asks if Elfie learned anything from it. Elfie then says, "I didn't learn a lot, but if monsters is important," which makes me wonder if that was the filmmakers basically doing a dig at them, at whoever designed for these traffic thing to be in the movie, because it is just relentless, as we have no doubt beaten into your head, but we haven't done it as much as this movie has with the traffic sign subplot, because, boy, it does not end there. The pterodactyl then tells him to stop, and one thing I will point out, he actually says stop in English in the Spanish version as well, which kind of a cute touch there. Kevin and Elfie shows him the sign as he asks what it is and if he can eat it. He then licks it like a lollipop and then eats it. He then promptly spits it back out and says that he broke a tooth, then says that he will eat them. Elfie then says that, "Do you think we're a walking supermarket?" as the beast says, "No, you're a first course," and licks his lips. Elfie then offers him some chewing gum as Kevin wonders what that is. Elfie then says it's candy and it's delicious. He says that it tastes like strawberries. The beast tells him to take some. He does it, blowing a bubble as Kevin is amazed at this. The pterodactyl then takes all of them, eventually blowing a bubble he gets stuck in as he floats away to the horizon, screaming that he wants out, and this might be a very unique reference to something.
So yeah, in the OG Dragon Ball series, there's a character called Giron who is of the race Giras, and he looks like a pterodactyl dinosaur kind of combination thing. His big magical ability, and I said that in the first movie that I thought that it was a reference, and I think this one confirms it, is called merry-go-round gum. And what that ability is he shoots out gum and traps people with it. So if it's either a really, really huge coincidence that your pterodactyl dude, who already looks like this character, gets trapped in gum, or this is 100% an intentional reference.
I definitely think it is, because Dragon Ball is so popular over here. Both the original, Z, and pretty much the whole franchise, to be honest, is huge here. So I could definitely see that being an intentional reference. And whoever did, they had a lot of fun with it. We then come back to the island as Septimus is trying to open the cube, but not having any luck. In a pretty cute joke, he kicks Tristan into the ocean, but literally seconds later, a wave throws him back, with the wave being like a hand. And that's always a classic gag where like not even the ocean wants him. Septimus, meanwhile, is trying to spin and turn the cube. Obviously, he's watched Hellraiser, and he thinks he can open it that way. But thankfully, it's not that, because that would make this movie way too violent for a kid's film. But he then ends up throwing it at Tristan's hands. The cube then opens up and sparkles before Tristan, and they both disappear in a puff of smoke. Septimus, left back on the island, asks where he is, and begs not to be left alone, as Tristan is then teleported back to their evil lair from the first movie. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Going back to the whole Hellraiser sort of thing, it's beautiful that cube doesn't have any holes on the side, because he'll end up bringing Hellraisers there, and it's going to be one hell of a party.
We then get the next musical number, which basically is all about how much of a loser Tristan is. The first verse is about how Tristan could have done great things for himself, but he doesn't, and how he serves Septimus and can't think for himself. The chorus is basically saying, you think you're funny, but you make me cry, and you think you're beautiful when you're not. This is one of the songs that really does sound better in Spanish, just like the chorus alone, Triste Tristan. It has a nice rhyming scheme to it, and from what I heard of the English language version, it just sounds like a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, this is one of those cases where, yeah, the English version is probably better than this, but A, I haven't heard the Spanish version, so I can't really speak about its quality, but B, this is probably the worst song in the film. Like, as a villain song and just as a song in the entire thing. Like, granted, the visuals are a lot better here for the most part. It's still in that crappy, low quality Adobe Flash sort of style. There's a lot more diversity here than there are in the other two songs that we're going to be talking about. Yeah, it honestly kind of just betrays Tristan's character as a whole, because like Tristan was still this whole lackey sort of character who was silent and just let Septic Tank do his whole thing. He was never really that intentionally cruel. He was just there, like vibing and just ultimately serving his masters every whim. So to see him have a song that describes his true ultimate villainousness feels very inaccurate to me. Go ahead, Math.
So for as bad as the song is, and oh boy, it bad, particularly in English, what I find particularly egregious about this is, we're focusing on Tristan for 15 seconds of screen time. Okay, time to make a 5-minute song about it.
This is just padding.
Say what you want about the previous song, but the transition into it at least made sense. Kevin was talking about wanting to be a knight and how is his whole stick, so transitioning to a song that is related to that idea makes sense even if it doesn't build up to anything at the end of the film. Here, Tristan is teleported to the evil lair. Song time!
Yep.
That's all that happens. It is so egregious. It really means absolutely nothing in the context of the film. The animation in this doesn't help because Tristan first appears out of an egg and eats a fly, tries to do the same thing with a frog but lands in a cauldron and basically floats around it for a while. We then see him swimming underwater as he gets to the second verse, which is all about how Tristan does bad things to others and never learns, as he knocks a bird out of the sky. Then, get ready for another addition to what the hell am I talking about? Because, folks, here we go. He knocks a bird out of the sky. Then a flying cow defecates on him. And yes, they show it. No, I don't know why they did it.
Yeah, seriously. Like, is there some underlying thing about Tristan that was alluded to but never got to because these films did a bad job? The only way this could have made sense if there was like some flashback or something that talked a little bit about Tristan's past and what he did. If he was like some all-powerful, like mischievous, cruel demon or something, and that this was ultimately his thing where he came back and decided to indulge in some of his old habits, I would forgive it a lot more. But they never explain it. Like, as far as we know, Tristan is just a lackey who is just there vibing, and deep down he's just super smart and just like this chill guy who only does this as like a side gig or like a quick buck or something, but he never gets paid and he never gets appreciated, and there's just nothing here. We have no idea what's going on, and moments like that where the flying cow freaking does its business on it, it's just so weird. Go ahead, Shark.
Yep, you're saying it's a nothing song. They could have used or his story, how he came across Septimus. Something that the lyrics constantly says, like, it asks him, how do you distinguish evil from good? So, I don't know, maybe you're building it up so he's eventually going to see the error in his ways. He doesn't do anything because, spoiler alert, as soon as the song ends, he just teleports back to the island and nothing happens.
It is just so out of place, like you just said, because the lyrics are all just about how much of a loser he is in that. We then get some remused animation of him bouncing around, then he wipes his nose in a tree, which throws him into mud. We then see him dancing around, first tap dancing and then break dancing. He looks in the mirror as it shadows at the sight of him, and unlike Sheba the sea serpent from last week, he deserved to have it break on him. He then picks up a flower with a face. Sadly, it is not the talking flower, although if it would, I know exactly what he would say. Ew! What am I even looking at?
Yep.
But the flower then squirts water in his face. Tristan then sees a snail and prepares to eat it, but The snail picks him up with its eye stalk and slams him repeatedly on the ground, and Larry might not have appreciated SpongeBob's snailer joke, but he did a public service to us all here. The song ends with the frog eating the fly from earlier and then laughing at Tristan. This whole musical number accomplishes absolutely positively nothing. It's crazy. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
So I want to go back to that flower for a second, because this is one of the worst things I have ever seen in animation. For as much as I said I like that they were trying a different animation style with these songs, the sort of chibi look, this one is just ungodly terrible. And they use literally 2 frames of going back and forth as a dance thing for this flower for 5 fucking seconds. This is insultingly bad.
After the song, we then see Tristan pick up the cube and bonk it on his head, teleporting him back to the island. Septimus is amazed to have him back and tells him to get them out of this place, asking if Tristan knows how it works. Tristan then bangs it on his head again, only for him to teleport away again. We then cut to Elfie and his family eating dinner, as Vivian said it tastes terrible, and Elfie asks what it is. Gala says that she made the mistake of letting her husband cook, as Ken says that he likes it. He takes more as Gala asks, "Are you joking?" All of a sudden, Tristan appears and teleports onto the table, and here we get to see why Gala is the best character of the movie, because the second she sees Tristan, the first thing she says is, "Get that disgusting thing off the table." You speak for us all, Miss Dragon. You speak for us all.
First, having Ken cook is arguably the best reason why having him do all that hypnotized stuff was kind of a bad idea in the long run. Stick to your strengths and have him stick to his. Second of all, this guy was covered in flying cow dung earlier. Why else do you think it would be so disgusting right now?
I don't know why, but in this scene, Ken, for some reason in this scene, he sounded like Xavier Renegade Angel. I had to make the joke of like when he says, "And I didn't even write the recipe down." All I could jokingly say was, "Well, he who slumbers a cucumber."
What happens is, before the family can kick him out, Elfie bonks himself on the head again, then teleports away yet again. Before Elfie and the family can take care of him, Tristan teleports away with the spoon still in his mouth. Gala asks to know what is going on, as Elfie says this is serious, and Ken agrees, saying that all of the food is gone and he forgot to write down the recipe. Wah, wah. Tristan then teleports back to the island as Septimus yells at him, then notices the spoon and yells at him again, saying, "I'm on this desolate island starving, and this guy is going to restaurants." He then snatches the cube up from Tristan as he tries to use it, smacking himself in the head, but only ends up seeing stars and faints. We then cut to Ethelbert's library as he says that the stew was a portal to Dragon Hill, in another good joke. He then tries reading about it, only to find nothing, then asks if the food was any good as Kevin and Elfie recoil in disgust over this. Ethelbert then says, "I knew it. The last thing I could imagine is your father doing anything right." So, apparently, Ethelbert and Ken has the same relationship of Grandpa Simpson and Homer. I expect him to say something like, "Ken, you're as dumb as a mule and twice as ugly. If a knight walks up to you with a sword, throw yourself on it."
Wow.
Elfie then says that if Maud can tell them anything about that, as Ethelbert says it is quite unlike Maud because she put the coordinates in and sent them away, letting science do the rest. He then says that does not explain how Tristan got sent back to Dragon Hill, as Elfie asks if they should let her know. Ethelbert then says no, saying that she is only a guest there, but he is the guardian of Dragon Hill, and it is up to him to let things go in or out of Dragon Hill. We then come back to Septimus trying to figure out how it works before he finally realizes how it does work. He has to bang on his head, and then says if it works for Tristan, it will work for him too, as dramatic music plays. We then fade to black again, making me wonder if that was the end of the next episode, as we then fade back into Maud's lesson, as she's trying to teach Newton and another dragon about the no entry sign. Newton says it probably means something is prohibited, but can't remember what it is. He then suggests that singing is prohibited, as Elfie arrives, asking who said that as Maud tries to clarify. Elfie then says, "Does that mean we could sing?" as Maud says yes, with Newton and his friends singing badly. Elfie and Kevin join in as it causes clouds to come in and start raining, with Maud saying, "With you around, it's best not to forget your umbrella." And all of what I just said has nothing to do with the story. That was literally just padding for padding's sake, and it drove me bananas. I really try not to crap over everything, but this part, for some reason, this broke me, and I don't know why. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, if it gets to the point where even Zubeia has to summon a storm to threaten you to shut up and just get on with the plot, then clearly there's something wrong with this movie.
We then cut back to Ethelbert, making his way to the computer room for the first film, which still looks awesome. Ethelbert watches what happened on the computer. As he then sees that Tristan has the magic cube, he must call the others, saying that such a thing is too important to let go. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
From this point forward, I noticed something with Ethelbert. They keep doing this zoom in with his face. Like I mentioned this before, that they keep reusing the same 10 animations or GIFs for the characters. It's particularly noticeable with Ethelbert. They keep doing this zoom in of his angry face. Anytime he talks, anytime he does anything, it's just the zoom in of his angry looking face, and that's it. I don't think that they were able to animate him talking at all, and they had to use that basically every time he speaks.
That is something that really is just so annoying. You could really tell it is a way for them to try and reuse animation and save a cost. And it's a shame because, again, the first one looked so good.
Mm-hmm.
It really is something else. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
It might be because when the camera is zooming to their eyes, you don't see their mouth, so probably they didn't have to animate the lip syncing of those scenes.
True, that is typically an animation sheet, but here it's really egregious. We then cut to the dragons all learning about the traffic signs, and then we get to our third and final song, all about traffic safety, which, again, feels like it does not fit in at all as we get another style change. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
Yep. And it's another case of transition for the sake of transition, like no build-up or anything. But what I think it makes more odd is the fact that the previous scene about this subplot was the dragons trying to sing. Wouldn't it make sense if that joke leads to them starting an actual song?
Exactly. This just feels so chopped up. Go ahead, Matt.
I once again need to know how much this animation studio was paid by the Spanish government to talk about traffic safety, because this is a 5 fucking minute song doing this. There is, I'm not joking, somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes of this 70-minute movie talking about explicitly traffic safety laws. This is obscene.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes in the Tristan song, 5 minutes of the Kevin song. That is 15 minutes of crappy Adobe Flash animation in this entire movie. Only one of them is terrible visually, and only one of them is terrible with the lyrics and just the overall concept. And we got this song, which, yeah, it makes me a little more concerned that government or whatever driving organization is in Spain had this film by the balls and wanted to incorporate that as much as possible. Mod wanting to introduce driving safety, it's not that big a deal. I definitely agree that this, while middle of the road compared to the other two songs, it really doesn't help this film's case, and I really did not like any of the Adobe segments, especially this one part, suit of armor, and that one smiling flower. There's this traffic sign that has the red, yellow, and green things, and it just looks awful. Even more so than the flower, and even more so than Tristan smiling, it does not look great. None of them look great. End of story.
It just feels so out of place. It is for 5 minutes, and unlike the other two songs, we're not going to go into depth about this because all it is about learning about traffic signs. There is also a bit that literally no one outside of Spain will understand, because Maud is riding in a bathtub car that has a giant green L on the back of it, and no, this does not mean that the car is Luigi. The green L is what student drivers have to use on the road, and again, it's one of those things that you're trying to appeal to an international audience, but you're putting something in that no one outside of the country will get. The song teaches about how to stop at a stop sign and how to buckle up, and literally the only thing that is sort of like Dragon Hill is that Elfie is in the plane in one shot. That is it. There is a part where they go past a rhino in a car, they go past an alien in a UFO, and this feels like it's from a totally different show. This really feels so out of place, and we are skipping over it for our collective sanity. But after the song, Maud says that she is very proud of them for having learned about traffic signs. She says that they still have a lot to learn, which, after this, you still have much to learn. Maybe it's time to send her back to Earth, Ethelbert. But she's glad they took their first steps. Elfie asks what's the point of them knowing it if only they know it, as Maud says that is a good point and not everybody knows it. Oh, go ahead, Math.
Hey kids, do you want to watch a fantasy movie about dragons in a dragonland? Yay! Okay, open up your DMV manual and turn to page 3. What?
If you're thinking that this whole sign thing is going to come up in the climax in some way, they're going to defeat the villain with that knowledge, you're giving this movie too much credit.
Oh shit.
Kevin then says if Ethelbert was there, more people would have shown up. Maud then wonders how she can get him to show up, then says that she'll let him beat her at chess. And, okay, that's just gaslighting right there. Elfie says that's a good idea, as Maud says that she'll invite him over for cake, and then we'll play him. She then says for Elfie and Kevin to give him the invitation, and she'll wait for him at home. We then come back to the pterodactyl still in the bubble, as a bird sits on it, thinking it is a giant egg. And one thing I want to point out, at least in the original Spanish version, the bird sounds eerily like Kazooie, which makes me wonder if they reused sound effects from Banjo-Kazooie in this, because it sounds so close to her squawks. It's almost too close to be a coincidence. It is weird.
Yeah, if they did, more power to them. Banjo and Kazooie deserves more recognition. If not, then color that a little. Also, I'm just picturing Giron stuck in his own bubble, and then Kazooie comes by and just pops him out.
Well, it could be worse for him. He could be Squidward in a bubble surrounded by seagulls after SpongeBob and Patrick mistook him as a ghost.
Huh. Very true. We then come back to Elfie and Kevin arriving at Ethelbert's lair, as Kevin says that he's not home. Elfie says that he is, but he's the busiest dragon as he's the guardian and it's not an easy job. They then come across his agenda, as Kevin says it might tell them where he is. Elfie reads it, saying that it is Thursday and he is in a council meeting. Elfie then says they only meet on Mondays, unless something terrible has happened. Elfie then runs off with Kevin following him. We then cut to the Dragon Council as Ethelbert tells the other dragons that the magic cube is actually an evil device, despite its innocent appearance, and holds an evil power. He adds that they all know the consequences that can happen if it arrives in Dragon Hill. One older dragon says that they got rid of it 1,000 years ago, but another dragon says that does not matter. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, again, another heavy metal parallel. An ancient device that was sent from this planet ages ago, never to be seen again, comes back several years later, ready to cause Armageddon once again. Also, this moment right here, we needed more of this. More world building, more actual development, more focus on, I don't know, the dragon and mystical aspect of this. I mean, they sure they focus on the dragons, except it's basically Maud teaching them about driving stuff, which, again, I don't have beef with, but a lot of people certainly do. The others on this podcast included. Go ahead, Math.
What's this? Plot? Stake? Intrigue? Consequences? Nah, we need to focus on driving.
Yeah, where was this 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh hey, we're finally getting some plot in this movie. And there's only like 15 minutes left of movie.
Ethelbert says that they should bring the magic cube to Dragon Hill to neutralize its evil. The other dragon says that he's crazy as the cube is too dangerous. Ethelbert then retorts that the cube is even more dangerous to the whole universe in the irresponsible hands of Septimus and Tristan, and that if they bring it to Dragon Hill, they have at least a chance. Newton asks how to spell irresponsible, as one of the dragons then agrees with Ethelbert, with the council all in agreement of him. Ethelbert then says he will try to bring the magic cube back to Dragon Hill, and thanks them all for their support as Elfie and Kevin look in. And here we get probably one of the two best jokes of the movie, because Elfie says, "Did you hear that, Kevin? Yeah, Newton doesn't know how to spell irresponsible." We then come back to Maud preparing the cake, only for her to realize with a chocolate statue of both her and Ethelbert together, it looks like a wedding cake. She then quickly eats the chocolate version of her as Elfie and Kevin arrive. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Someone, somewhere, ships these two. And after the plot of this movie, I have to say, I'd rather watch a rom-com of those two than this actual quote-unquote plot.
Exactly. It's like they had a framework for an idea, but didn't know how to execute it. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
casually side eyes and whistles, thinking of possible scenarios where Ethelbert and Maud get together in that sort of way.
We then get the second half of the exchange that made me laugh. Elfie and Kevin arrive and they say, Maud, you won't believe what happened. Yeah, Newton made a spelling error. But Maud says that's not too bad, as Elfie then tells her the true reason that they were there, as Elfie trips on the word unimaginable. Maud then does the same thing, then leaves to go see what is happening. She then tells the pair not to touch anything, as Elfie goes into the workshop, while Kevin goes to check out the chocolate cake. Elfie sees the repaired plane and marvels at it. We then cut to Ethelbert with White Spear of Light, which turns out to be the magic sphere, the only thing that can stop the magic cube. He then has the sphere look into his mind to show him who has the magic cube, as it shows Septimus and Tristan are still stuck on the island. Oh, go ahead, Math.
So, in order to beat the magic cube, you need a magic sphere. And the originality in this movie, 10 out of 10, best I've ever seen. All we're missing is a magic dodecahedron.
Well, maybe Ethelbert can roll a natural 20 and we can be done with this movie.
Fingers crossed.
Come back to the island as Septimus says that he's going to bonk Tristan on the head and have them teleport to wherever the cube takes them. Before they do that, they are both teleported away into a volcano, as Septimus says he didn't hit Tristan yet. Tristan smells something as Septimus asks what it is, before a thermal vent launches them into the ceiling, flattening them in a pretty cute cartoon gag. They then return to normal as Septimus says, I feel like chewed gum, in a cute callback. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
So Septimus just teleported them away from the island. Well, the whole learning how to use the cube for teleporting was pointless.
Yep, add that to the list. But what happens is Ethelbert then shows up, demanding that the wizard gives him the cube, but Septimus runs away, screaming that it is his. He then says that, you will never catch me, you ugly lizard, before he bumps into a stalagmite. Ethelbert tells Septimus to give him the cube before he gets hurt. Septimus then says, what hurt? Then says he won't get hurt, and it takes a lot to injure him before he gets hit with a rock. In another cute gag, Ethelbert basically says, are you there, Septimus? And Septimus says, no, I just went out. Ethelbert then tries to grab the rock before Tristan bites his tail. Ethelbert, like everybody else in this movie, is extremely angry at Tristan and breathes fire at the imp. And the fire effect they use here is interesting because it's Ethelbert making a shocked face while he put a flame effect in front of his mouth. And you'd think this would look cool. It doesn't, because you can very much tell that the fire effect, it looks like an animated GIF. It looks like something that a forum user would have in their signature circa when this movie came out. It's a shame because they could have done something cool like Henry's World, where you could have had the fire be 3D, or you could have had it even be like a cardboard cutout, but instead, they use this really cheap-looking animation.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of sad to see how much recycling they use. The bulk of it is in that one song where Kevin is trying to practice his night training. In other places where it's noticeable, it can kind of make this film feel a little uncouth to sit through sometimes. It's not all bad, but when it is, it's very noticeable.
Septimus then runs off with the cube as Ethelbert asks, where do you think you're going? Septimus then yells, catch me if you can, you grumpy fossil, before being blocked by a locked door. We then cut to Elfie playing with the controls of the airplane, saying, after arriving after a dangerous mission, the people of Dragon Hill greet their hero Elfie, and makes cheering noises. Kevin then shows up, telling the dragon that Maud told him not to touch anything, while Kevin is eating a slice of cake. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
Well, him playing with the buttons way better for him than they did for Milhouse.
Elfie then retorts, we don't touch anything, and that includes you too. When Kevin asks what he means, Elfie hops out of the plane and begins ranting about how when Kevin doesn't want to understand something, he doesn't. He's more comfortable being on the margin of responsibility, and doing that is his specialty. Then points out the broken dishes. When Kevin says he doesn't know what he means, Elfie points out that he ate the cake that Maud meant for his grandfather. Kevin asks Elfie what they will do, as Elfie then says mockingly, what will we do? Before saying that they're going to go into the kitchen to make another one. Elfie then says that Kevin should know about this as he worked in there, but Kevin says that desserts wasn't his specialty. When Elfie asks what he means, Kevin says he has no idea how to make a cake. And again, this feels like they were trying to do that bit that was in every single animated movie of this time, of the two friends arguing with each other and trying to go their separate ways, as seen in Road to El Dorado, as seen in Toy Story 2, as seen in probably 20 billion other examples. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I would like to once again point out this full 1 minute scene of the two of them arguing and then going to make a cake has nothing to do with any plot anywhere and does not come up again.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're throwing in like ideas for like episodes. Have this been picked up? Like, oh, here's the episode where Kevin and Elfie has to make a cake to replace the one they ate.
Exactly. And even this does not go anywhere at all. Because we then come back to Maud driving in her car saying how, thanks to modern transport, I could get anywhere before seeing a no entry sign in the middle of the road. She swerves to avoid it but crashes as Newton shows up. She asks if he put that sign there, as he said he did because she taught them all about it. He says that was the no entry sign and she did a good job of not entering, before she screams, "You don't put a sign like that in the middle of the crossroads." This feels like malicious compliance, like, okay, we'll do something with the traffic signs, and they explicitly show how they have done nothing but cause harm to the dragons. That really does feel like them digging at them. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, good. We had about 3 or 5 minutes of plot. I was getting worried we weren't going to come back to the traffic safety instructions again.
As the dragon tries telling the wizard they have to destroy the cube, as it will destroy everything. Obviously, now we're getting to the Lord of the Rings portion of the film. Cast it into the fire! Destroy it!
They just had leftover animation from what they were planning with the show. They just threw it all together.
Yeah, feels that way. And adding on to that, I think Rushed is very much overselling it a little bit because, yeah, admittedly, it's not as compact as other stuff, but it's definitely noticeable that they put all of their most important stuff toward the end, and it just does not help this film's case. All that stuff that happened for like 2 minutes and is never brought up again, it's all towards the end. It's very noticeable, like I said. The flaws are very noticeable in this film, and I'm honestly kind of preferring the first film in this.
Septimus then basically says that it's only there to transport someone from one place to another, but Ethelbert replies that the cube needs to interact with the 4 elements, and if it does so, even by accident, nothing will be able to stop it. Ethelbert then says that if Tristan gives him the cube, he will let Septimus and Tristan go anywhere that they want to. Septimus doesn't believe him, as Ethelbert says that he is tired of this. Aren't we all? Septimus then throws the cube to Tristan, as Ethelbert says that if the cube falls in the lava, it will be the end of them all. Tristan barely manages to catch the cube, but he then does a victory dance, dropping it, as well as him, into the lava. And yeah, at this point, I was actually wondering, would they have the stones to actually kill off Tristan? It's Gurgi from Black Cauldron all over again. But the lava begins erupting as Ethelbert says that the only thing that could stop it is the magic sphere as he flies off holding Septimus. A blast of magic comes from Ethelbert's castle as Maud sees this, telling Newton to warn the others. We then cut to Ethelbert flying off after grabbing the sphere, with Maud seeing the light in the sky. She wonders what it is as Ethelbert and Septimus land in the field, with Ethelbert saying, "It has only just begun." The ground begins to shake as we cut to Elfie's house. Ken says he just got started with the dusting, while Gala wonders what is happening. The other dragons all wonder what is happening as Kevin says it's an earthquake. Elfie replies that Dragon Hill does not have earthquakes, as we cut to Maud running up to Ethelbert, asking him what is going on. He tells her to take Septimus and leave, but she refuses to. Ethelbert demands that she does it, as Maud then taunts Septimus, calling him badly behaved and slaps him. Ethelbert says you won't have any problems with him as she drags him off, telling the wizard to be nicer. And here we get the finale of the movie, which is definitely something. After all of this talk of traffic signs and baking cake, wacky follies on a desert island, we get an Eldritch abomination, which looks pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie. This is actually a really, really unique design. It kind of looks like a giant tentacled monster made of sand. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I think it was at this point that I realized why they brought up the Aladdin thing like they did, because this thing looks like it's animated the same way they did the Cave of Wonders in Aladdin, infidels, that thing, except it looks worse, and you have to remember that movie, Aladdin, was 10 years earlier.
You want to know the perfect weapon to bring to a Eldritch Abomination fight? A goddamn frying pan, which is honestly what Galadriel uses, and it's pretty comical, but also in character for her, let's be honest.
An explosion occurs as Maud, Septimus, and various dragons are all turned into stone statues. Elfie then tells Kevin to duck down and not look at it as they cut to the Dragon Council, saying that they give their strength to Ethelbert to defeat the Magic Cube. Yet another Dragon Ball reference I see. He then manages to obtain their energy, using the magic sphere to blast the beast with energy. He manages to attack one of the tentacles as we cut to Elfie getting in the cockpit of the plane and telling Kevin to stay there. Kevin wants to help, but Elfie says that it's too dangerous for him and takes off. Kevin tries to catch up but slips on oil and lands in the barrel again. Elfie then takes off as the barrel flies off the cliff, with Elfie seeing him and flying down to rescue him. Some of the earlier barrel animation is reused as Kevin then bounces on the bubble that the pterodactyl is stuck in, bouncing up to the sky. We then come back to Ethelbert, blasting the monster in the face as Gala watches this in awe, then says that they have to help him. The monster breathes fire as even Ethelbert is shocked by its power. We then cut to Kevin falling from the sky as Elfie saves him in the plane. Kevin then jokes that, "You couldn't live without me, could you?" As Elfie says, "Seems like that." The pair then fly off as Gala, Ken, and Vivian arrive to see Maud and Septimus turned into stone. Ethelbert tries to continue to attack the monster as Elfie and Kevin fly in. And here we get probably one of the best moments of the movie, because Gala's first response to seeing a giant eldritch horror is to start beating the hell out of it with a frying pan. Her first reaction to seeing this giant kaiju-sized abomination is just to start whacking the hell out of it, which really makes me wish Gala was the star of this movie. We could have followed her rather than the rest of the nonsense that this movie was, because this is the best part of the movie. This is the part of the movie where I was like, yeah, you get him. You go get him.
Yeah, and in case it rains, she gets to use it as a drying pan.
They should have asked Muriel for help. She has her own cooking weapon as well.
This woman is just the dragon equivalent of Peg Pete, and no one will ever change my mind.
Then tells Elfie to use the magic sphere. Elfie then holds up the sphere as he and Kevin fly into the monster before they crash the plane, and the sphere lands in the monster's chest, causing it to self-destruct. And again, for as unique and as cool as a design as this thing is, it is defeated so easily. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Want to note that when Ethelbert tossed the sphere over to Elfie, there are 5 uninterrupted seconds of it just freeze framing on that shot of Elfie just holding the sphere, blinking a couple times, and nothing happening. I thought I was having a stroke. They didn't animate anything. It's just 5 seconds of nothing.
These monsters gets built up to the whole story as this big thing that can destroy the universe, and we need a superpower being for being to defeat it. But oh no, that guy got defeated, so we have to beat it. Oh, it's dead. Hi, Tiamat from Ghostbusters.
Exactly. Except Tiamat actually had more to do with it than this thing did.
Yeah, I think we just honestly found the worst Eldritch Abomination. I mean, I'm sure there's something out there that we've already covered that honestly surpasses in easiest to beat Eldritch deity ever, but until then, congratulations, Dragon Hill 2. You have won that award, and accept it all in its tinfoil glory.
As soon as the monster is destroyed and disappeared, all of those that were turned to stone turns back to normal, as Ethelbert then snatches the cube out of Tristan's hands. He then says that it is too dangerous and will have to be watched very closely. We then come back to Dragon Hill, as Maud says that Elfie and Kevin are true heroes. Ethelbert agrees, saying that they are good kids, before mentioning that everybody helped. And yeah, in a way, Gala did, so did Ken and Vivian. And kind of a shame we did not get to see Gala, 'cause I bet she probably could have one-shot this thing too, but what she does do is she arrives with cake, because she always has cake on her. As she calls everyone in for it. Maud then asks about Septimus, as Ethelbert says that he is probably planning something, but in Dragon Hill, at least he can be controlled. Then cut to Septimus and Tristan in their lair again, as Tristan is stirring a cauldron. Septimus notes that he is cooking vegetable stew and screams at Tristan if eating is all he thinks about as he eats a fly. We then come back to the pterodactyl as it is sitting in a nest, being fed by the bird that managed to save it, as it remarks how it's good to have someone look after me. Kind of a cute gag there. The movie then ends with a pullback shot of Dragon Hill, and Dragon Hill 2, The Magic Cube, was actually nominated for a Goya, but it did not win because thank goodness it didn't. The first one is an award-winning movie, this is not. Dragon Hill 2 also did not get a television spin-off, but it did happen to have a sequel released 8 years later. That sequel, Dragon Hill 3, El Corazón de Roble, actually got an official English dub, and it was released in the United States under the title Dragon Guardians. But before you get excited, that movie is done in heinously bad CGI. Did you like the 2D art style of the first two movies? Too bad. It's 2013. CGI movies are in, and we're going to replace it with the most eye-searingly awful things you have seen.
Say what you will about the Land Before Time sequels, but compared to Dragon Hill, those at least had a quality that still stuck with them even to their final movie. This somehow was able to be worse than the Land Before Time sequels. That is a feat in of itself. It wasn't a bad sequel. It had some good moments, but a few good moments can't exactly defend an entire film from being not as stellar as the first film, let's be honest. Go ahead, Math.
I'm going to do a slight comparison here. What did I like about this movie compared to Dragon Hill 1? Well, the backgrounds are still really well animated and drawn. I like that. What else? That's it. What did you dislike about this movie compared to Dragon Hill 1? Everything.
I will say this. The movie at least still had Gala and still had her thickness, so that's something else to be said.
Fair.
Also, something to note here, the Eldritch Abomination in this movie was animated in 3D. It was like a warning of what will happen if Dragon Hill went 3D, and they did not listen.
No, they did not. And the thing, too, that's interesting about Dragon Hill 3 is it's kind of a quasi-reboot of the franchise, as Septimus and Tristan are not in it, and it introduces elements that come out of nowhere and actually kind of contradict the other two films. So it is so weird, and we will talk about that abomination another time because, sadly, it is the movie with the most amount of screen time for Gala. And I want to point out, Gala has a different voice actress in that movie, at least in the Spanish version, and yeah, it's not good. This voice was great. It's the same from the first one, and the voice actress in Dragon Hill 3 is not nearly as good. Let us talk about actually good animated sequels in our question of the week, which is, what is your favorite animated sequel? I'm going to go first, and obviously I could say Bartok the Magnificent, except that's an animated prequel. But realistically, for my choice, I am actually going to pick Toy Story 2 as my favorite animated sequel, because I feel like the original Toy Story is a fantastic movie, but Toy Story 2 takes everything that was good about the original Toy Story and enhances it. It has a really amazing plot line where we learn more about Woody's past, and the entire When She Loved Me sequence still brings tears to your eyes to this day. Even talking about it gets me a little misty-eyed. It has really great comedy with the entire part with the imitation Buzz, and of course, lest we forget the awesomeness that is Zurg. Destroy Buzz Lightyear! Destroy Buzz Lightyear! Is amazing. I still laugh like an idiot all these years later to Buzz, I am your father. No! It is such an amazing movie. It has Al from Al's Toy Barn, which also led to Wayne Knight voicing Zurg in the Buzz Lightyear TV series, so we have this to thank for that. Really, it's a sequel that is so amazing because of the condition it was made in, because infamously, it was originally going to be a direct-to-video movie. It was actually not going to have Jessie, it was going to have another character named Señorita Cactus. And what's interesting about that is Disney was so impressed by this, they basically gave Pixar a larger budget and told them, okay, redo the movie and put it in theaters. And it also has the infamous story about the film almost being deleted, being saved by one employee. And we're glad that they did because it is such a fantastic movie. It is actually one of my favorite Pixar movies, and it is the best of the Toy Story movies. Hot take here. I feel if they stopped making Toy Story after this movie, it would have been fine. You could have just stuck with the Toy Story shorts, and I would have been happy as a clam. Toy Story 3 is great and all, but it's not Toy Story 2. You understand? But that's only going to be my pick, is Toy Story 2, because, man, what a great, great movie that is.
I found out that whole story about Toy Story 2 being saved. It's not exactly true.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it turns out that version was thrown out anyway.
Oh, so it was the original version. I see.
They did save the movie, but they just remade it anyway. It was not approved.
Wow.
I did not know that. Anyway, Angron, what would your pick be?
That's going to be a little tricky because there are quite a lot of animated sequels I like. I could give special nod to Pokemon The Spell of the Unknown or Latios and Latios, since those are astounding to look at and are pretty amazing in their own right. I could give nod to One Piece Film Red, which is also astounding, and there is so much about it that should be canon. Oh, wait, one more thing. I could honestly give nod to the Land Before Time sequel, Journey of the Mists, or at the very least, The Big Freeze, for being two childhood classics, in my honest opinion, because I am one of those people, and I very much am going to be sticking to my guns on this. And that's going to pick Bambi. But wait a minute, that's a midquel, not a sequel. Technically speaking, it is a sequel. It takes place after the events of the first half of Bambi, so by technicality, I'm going to label it a sequel. And it honestly should be talked about a lot more because the stuff they do with this. They build upon Bambi's relationship with his father, who is pretty much just him, except young son mimicking father, and it makes the original Bambi stand a lot stronger for that. Alexander Gold really does a good job with Bambi in this film. It is just so adorable seeing Bambi be a lot more independent, grow stronger because of it, and just... I also love that there's a little bit of a build up from this film and the second half of the second half of Bambi. I just love it so much. But for all those out there who really want to see a animated sequel, not really a midquel, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to say One Piece Film Red. Astounding visuals, music done by Otto, that woman can sing, and just like I said, a lot of stuff from that film could absolutely be seen as canon in the main One Piece chronology. So absolutely do that if you can, Oda. Otherwise, those are going to be my two picks.
It is probably one of the best Disney direct-to-video sequels, for pretty much all the reasons you described. I can definitely see why you picked that one. Let's see, Math, what would your pick be?
A lot of people say that Shrek 2 is the greatest animated sequel of all time, if not one of the greatest sequels in general of all time. I actually hold that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is the best animated sequel, but because we're going with favorite rather than best, I have a different choice from DreamWorks. Megamind 2, obviously. What else could it be? I will keep making that joke until the mental scars have healed. No, but it is actually another DreamWorks movie. DreamWorks is really good with twos. Bad Guys 2. I loved how fun and engaging that movie was. It was everything I wanted from a Bad Guys sequel. I love the first movie. I love how entertaining it was, how charismatic all of the characters were, it was a movie that lived in being fun and entertaining, something that a lot of anime movies have forgotten how to do anymore. And Bad Guys 2 just gave more of that. More fun with the characters, more charming personalities, more dynamic interactions between all of them. It was everything I wanted. I left the theater a very happy boy with that movie.
It certainly did some very surprising things as well, like something that happens in the climax. I did not expect they will do it, actually.
It takes the original and it follows up on it in such a good way. It feels so natural. It really is something else. Let's see, Shark, what would your pick for your favorite animated sequel be?
Unfortunately, the Mario Galaxy movie is not out yet, so I can't answer that. But, well, one easy answer is obviously Shrek 2, because, wow, everything about this sequel is like the original, but even better. Better comedy, better characters. The songs they chose, they're so great. I still remember to this date. The stories are a great evolution from the original, that in the first movie, Shrek himself didn't think he deserved happiness. And all these movies about how society doesn't think Shrek deserves happiness. So it's a really interesting topic for the sequel and all of that. And yeah, as Matt says, everybody says, oh yeah, this is the greatest sequel. And maybe not the greatest, but it's definitely up there. However, a more unusual answer will be something that not many people consider, and that's gonna be SpongeBob, A Hero Out of Water, the sequel for the original SpongeBob movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Well, it's SpongeBob, so of course it's gonna be a fun movie. There's so many good jokes, the tiny piano, Patrick doing the alarm, the vandalizing the house, and of course the whole story with SpongeBob and having to trust Plankton, who up to this point, well, it's Plankton, so of course everybody's like, why would you do that and all of that? But something we have to give credit to this movie is that despite the whole fact that the main advertisement was the superheroes in the real world and CGI, that's actually a very small part of the movie. Most of the movie is actually 2D traditional animated, and this was in a time where every single movie was CGI. It was after Disney gave up because of the Princess of the Frog and Winnie Pooh. It was when DreamWorks was dominating, so, and the studio saying like, no, we're going to do a mostly traditional movie with these kind of characters we know and love. It's really impressive, like, and it's kind of clear they added the superhero thing because they have to promote it this way. Like, okay, we're gonna do it 2D, but we have to promote it 3D so people are actually interested in seeing it. But at the end, it worked because everything before the superhero stuff is so great. Even the character development with Plankton, the small songs we have, the whole idea of the parrot telling the story while it's happening. It's so great. It's so great.
It's a sequel, like you said, that really feels like it's such a love letter of SpongeBob in general. It has so many funny moments. The whole part of the superheroes at the end, it's really, to me, takes a back seat to all the 2D portions, which are really so much fun. Like the entire part where they go into the mindscape is hilarious. There's so many good parts like the talking popsicles and the space cosmic dolphin that is really funny.
Time travel sequence as well, like the animation there goes up and we have the gags with the Bubbles the dolphin or the Squidosaurus Rex.
That was great. And of course, the fact that Bikini Bottom instantly becomes an apocalyptic state as soon as the Krabby Patty is lost. That is hilarious.
Yep. Welcome to the apocalypse. I hope you like leather.
That's a great, great choice right there. So, let's see. Stryker, what would your pick be for your favorite animated movie sequel?
That's a hard one because there are so many movies that I've seen in my lifetime. I don't really remember many sequels that I enjoyed. I think the one that I'll have to go with is, well, it's a very controversial pick. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen.
Ooh.
Oh?
I just thought it was way more fun than the first Transformers movie. Now, given the first one was actually really good, I am not going to argue that. For some reason, I felt that this movie gave more representation to more of the characters from the original series. I don't know. I just felt it was very fun.
Do you mean Dark of the Moon? Because Dark of the Moon is all that, a bit of action.
I never saw Dark of the Moon, unfortunately.
What about Rise of the Beasts?
I've only seen the first 2 Transformers movies.
You see that and Bumblebee.
Yeah, for sure, I will see them. But yeah, that's my pick.
I can definitely see why. So, now it's time for the patent pending Dragoness Scale. I rank the Dragoness from 1 to 10. So we're talking about Gala this time, and to be honest, I will say this about the movie. The movie itself is not good. Gala herself is a little bit better than she was in the first film. Reconsidering it, I'm actually going to give her the same score because if she had a little more screen time, I would bump her up a point. If she had her own subplot, I would bump her up a point. With that being said, I cannot give her any higher than what I gave her last time, but it's still a very good score of 8 out of 10. And that is because, again, her design is still great. She gets more to do. She actually, in the climax, actually gets to do something compared to half the other characters like Maud, who just babbled about traffic signs for what felt like 90 minutes. Design is perfect, no notes. They did not tweak with perfection, unlike Dragon Hill 3. And yeah, that's going to be my score. Same one as last time, 8 out of 10. Shark, what would you give her?
Same as you actually. It's gonna be an 8 out of 10 because yeah, she did more than in the previous movie. She was in the climax and all of that. Of course, her design is still great. She's still big where it counts. And yeah, she's a fun character overall. Like her interaction with her hypnotized husband and her comments on their dinner are fun. Kind of a shame that this still isn't her biggest role and it's gonna be the next movie, unfortunately. But for what we got here for her, it's really good. It's gonna be an 8 out of 10 for me.
All good, all good. Okay, 8 out of 10. So let's see, Angron, what would you give her?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little more generous this time, especially since she does a lot more in here than just ground elfie. Like, she still has her hang-ups about technology, but she does so much more than in the first film. She actually helps out. She has her own sly side. She does make her mistake in this movie where she had Ken do the dinner, which that big mistake. But yeah, overall, she's still the same Galadriel from the first film, if not a little more. So it's that little bit right there that's going to bump her up to 9 out of 10 for me. She's not bad. She definitely has improved. She still has all the stuff that goes for her. I just wish they did a little bit more for her, you know?
Okay, I can definitely see that. Let's see, Matthew, what would you give her?
Her English voice this time around actually sounded good. The Spanish voice still sounded good, so that's an improvement right there. In a weird way, the lower animation quality actually fixed an issue that I had. I did not like how overly detailed and weird the hair looked on her and Vivian. In this one, because it's lower production quality, it looks better for me, weirdly enough. I can't explain that one. It doesn't look jarring this time around. Maybe I got used to it, or maybe it just meshed better this time. I don't know. So that helped. I liked her characterization. She had basically the only jokes in this. It was fun seeing her on screen whenever she was on. My biggest issue, and this is less to do with her, this movie was a slog to get through. And because of just how tedious and how monotonous everything else was, it just made her scenes even less impactful in general. And because of how bad the movie is as a whole, unfortunately, it hits her too. She's on screen for all of, I think, 3 minutes, and that's just not enough to make up for how painful this movie was. So last time I gave her an 8. This time, unfortunately, because the movie is just so bad, it's a 7.
If you guys know me, I'm giving her a 9. No reason.
No reason, he says.
Okay, all good, all good. It is interesting that despite this movie really not being that good, we still actually got a higher score for Gala than the original, surprisingly. That's going to be for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to hear more about mods traffic signs, you can feel free to email us at fiarydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us at Twitter at twitter.com/fiarydiscourse. Visit us at Blue Sky at Blue Sky Fiery Discourse. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and hit the bell icon, leave a comment. Any all comments are appreciated. Also, one of our co-hosts, Lucky Evie, is looking to move to a group home in the UK that will also be in the description. Next week, we'll be talking about the 2003 Sitio da Pica-Pau Amarelo. Sorry for that terrible, terrible Portuguese pronunciation. I will now refer to it by its English title, Yellow Woodpecker Ranch episode Carejo's Cousin, which will be very interesting to talk about because we finally get to talk about a character which I have wanted to talk about for a very, very long time. A certain crocodilian witch who, let's say it this way, I will be shocked if she does not get the score that I am thinking of. But that'll be for this week. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care.
Later, y'all.
Latest.
Peace out.
Adios. See you all next week.